Ciao amici, hello there. It's been a very long time. I hope you're doing fantastic. What you're about to see is a Q&A between myself and Dali Scarlett. We recorded it for the launch of The Social Strategist. The Social Strategist is the official The Power Moves book. Yes, it's finally out and you can get it now on Amazon at offer launch price. You do that, plus you leave a review. Here is the kicker for you. You can win a free membership to Power University or a free coaching call. Enjoy the Q&A. I'll see you next time, my friends. Big hug. Ciao, ciao. See you soon. Okay, shall we start?
Yeah. Would you like to do the honors?
All right. Yeah, man. First thing, usually people, when they start a new call or a new interview, they introduce people, right? And since we'll be publishing this on the Power Moves audience, probably they know a little bit about me. So I wanted to quickly say a few things about you, man. And I think this is an audience that appreciates self-development. They're into self-development, self-improvement, working on themselves. And I have to say, man, of all the years that I've been in this industry, but even before when I was learning on my own, you are one of the most amazing transformation stories I've ever seen. And I say one of the most because I'm always a little bit tentative to say the most, but I cannot think of anyone else who has done the progress that you've done. But one thing that's also amazing about you is how young you are, man. You're like, I was out with my brother not long ago, and he was asking me, so who did you write the book with? And I was telling him, he's a wonderful guy from the United States, and you know what? He's the same age as your kid. And my brother's kid is fantastic, but is more like a normal person, right? And I think you're in the top 1 percentile, man. Like, really. I was telling the story of all the sales copy that you wrote for Power University, and I was basically simply copy pasting, man. That's the level you're at. And then, and I sent you that box of wine, right?
Yeah.
And I thought it was so funny that you could not receive it because in the United States, you need to be 21 years old, right? And so you could not sign the package and you could not get it. And I think that's both funny and at the same time very telling, man. The level that you're at the age you're at is simply nothing short of amazing.
Hey, Lucio, words can explain how grateful I am for you saying that. That means a lot. And it's so interesting being on the receiving end of that after having read your article, How to Be Charming, and how charmers give grandiose introductions and not knowing what to expect. And clearly you've mastered the art of the Clooney. It's awesome to receive such an awesome introduction. Thank you so much. And I appreciate you mentioning that I've come a long way. I think I certainly wouldn't have come a long way if it weren't for you and all the work that you've done in Power University, in the Power Moves. I can only imagine what it's like as an entrepreneur sitting behind a screen, since everything is an online business, and just typing away and not knowing the kind of impact that it has on somebody who's on the receiving end of that. Because on your side, you're just taking your research, all of your life experiences, the practical wisdom that you have, and doing your best to distill it into something others can use. But until you receive those testimonials and you see how people respond to it, it's simply that process of creating. And for me to be on the receiving end of that, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is an absolute gold mine. They should teach this in school. Power University being a fitting name for it. I'm so grateful to have been a part of that journey, and I'm happy to have written this book with you. So thank you.
Right, man. Right. Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate the kind words. And by the way, for people who don't know it, you are one of the early joiners of the community. And as I was saying, the progress you've done, it's not something that I just heard from people. I've seen it. And if I can share a little bit of stories, I remember that in the beginning, some of your posts, right? And I'm being unfiltered here. And sometimes I used to think, oh man, this Ali, he really wants to learn. That's amazing. And yet some of those posts I was thinking, ouch, and then you shared one of those stories in the book, right? So I think one of the first posts was about assertiveness and how to defend your boundaries. And then you used that format, but it was not in the perfect situation. And I remember thinking, ouch, how far you had gone from those beginnings to where you are now. It's truly unbelievable. And plus, I say the sales copy, man, you're at a point where I could only copy paste. I could barely add any value to what you said.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny because we had just gotten done having a regular conversation, and then I said, "Would you like to do the honors?" And then the introduction you gave was so good. I could have sworn you prepared for it, but it seems like it was off the cuff. Awesome, thank you. So if
Thanks,
you'd
man.
like,
Thanks.
I can start reading the questions, and then you can take it away.
Okay, let's do it. I also have a few questions for you later on, by the way.
Yeah, naturally. All right. So first question is, why did we name this book The Social Strategist? So for anyone who doesn't know, really quickly, we opened up a thread in Lucio's forum at the Power Moves, basically gathering feedback from the community on what the title should be for the book. And we had a couple of different options. A lot of people voted on it, and we settled on The Social Strategist out of all the options. So if you'd like to answer, Lucio.
Right. Ali, to be honest, I think you might be the best suited one to answer that question because not really, like you've done most of the work.
I don't even remember the other titles. I think there was another one that I had voted on called Social Skills at Will or something like that. And
Right,
the
right,
community seemed to really resonate with the title of The Social Strategist. And albeit
right.
it seems that not a lot of people know what social strategy is because that on its own is also a new concept. A lot of people are resonating with it as the book has hit #1, thankfully. I think it was the right way to go, in part, not only for what it means in terms of the book's content, but what it means for what readers are able to become when they graduate from the book, which is sort of an introduction to Power University. If you'd like to fill in the gaps, Lucio.
Right. Yes, I think that that's the perfect, like getting your feet wet into power dynamics and social strategies. And I think you touched on a very good point. I think that there's something about strategies that people usually link to something darker, like war or like playing games. But strategies are strategies, and you can use it for all type of means that you have in mind or all type of goals that you want to reach. And if what you want is win-win, adding value, having good relationships, then having good strategies increases the chance that you will get those positive results.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that idea comes from. The strategy is dark. Perhaps, I don't know, maybe chess has a dark connotation that I don't know about, but I like to
Right.
think of strategy as a roadmap towards your goals.
Yeah. You know what I think it is? There is this idea that what's natural is nice and kind. So, you're a natural guy. Instead, if you reflect upon things, then you're more a little bit of a game player, right? So there is this association. Natural is good. You can trust the natural. The
Yeah,
guy who think things over, instead, you're not too sure about him. I think there might be something like that. And in a way, this makes sense, right? Because the guy who doesn't think anything's over is very naive and is also very easy to take advantage of. The guy who's a strategist is more grounded, is more aware, he knows the game, he knows how to play both for win-win, but also to defend himself. So he's more
right.
powerful, right? So for anybody out there who doesn't have your best interest in mind, he's better off going with the guy who's not a strategist because it's going to be easy to take from.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And I can understand that because if you see strategist and you think that it implies that one has to be calculative in order to succeed, well, usually sometimes the most calculated people, if their calculations are accurate, if they're, good at their thought processes, then maybe they are the most likely to succeed. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're using their calculations to take from people. Win-win does exist.
Right. Calculative is the perfect word for it. I agree. Yes. And, there might also be something where the most calculative person, I don't want to say most of them or the majority, but a good chunk, they don't always use it for win-win, right? So there might also be something there. If somebody tells me you have two black boxes and one is a calculative guy and one is, it doesn't think things over. Who do you think is safer to go with? Who do you think is more of a good person? I will probably choose the naive one,
Right. Yeah.
Which is a pity. And I think that's what also the book that we wrote, or the Power University, the work we do, is helpful, because we bring this way of thinking, these strategies, to the people who are not only power hungry, to the people who don't have negative ends in mind and who don't want to take from others and who want to succeed, but not necessarily succeeding at the cost of someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about, to be clear, this book, The Social Strategist, for anyone watching, is about more than empowering people who are naive and want to stop being taken advantage of in life. It's also about discouraging those manipulative taker behaviors, because while cheaters do succeed in the short term, they do not often last very long in the long term, and especially because reputations do exist and your reputations do precede you. So it is even better for the taker to switch to a win-win mindset as soon as possible.
Right. Absolutely. Yes, you said it. Absolutely. Yes. And, a world where more people are aware of the game, of the power moves, of the power dynamics, is a better world, because in the end, the takers, the assholes, the sons of the bitches of this world, they prey on naive people. And if there are fewer and fewer naive people, I think that also makes for a better world in general for everybody to live in.
Yeah, I agree. All right, next question. Next question is, what is power dynamics and what is a power move? I think you would be the best one to answer this one, Lucio.
I think sometimes the most difficult questions are the most basic ones.
Yeah.
What is power dynamics? How would you define it, Ali? To me, it's like a way of looking. If we see it from the book perspective, then it's a novel way of looking at social relationships and social dynamics. And it's something that unluckily hasn't been explored much. How would you define it, Ali? Help me with this one as well. I'm also curious because, I'm the guy who started it, and you are one of the early consumers as well. Maybe you saw something in
it. Yeah. I mean, I don't think you need the help, in my opinion. At the same time, I also think that, goodness, I have an oversimplification of it. Mm-hmm. And I say oversimplification because a lot of the true definition and meaning of power dynamics is lost in this definition. However, I find that people are able to understand it a little bit better, at least as an initial comprehension. And I define power dynamics as a power negotiation among counterparts in groups. And so since many people fundamentally understand negotiation, then it's simply a negotiation of power. And so that's where when you see the Donald Trump handshake pulling someone in, then you can understand that that person is being pulled off their balance, is the one who is lower in power. And you need to do something to rebalance that power in the negotiation.
Right. That makes perfect sense. You know what's my only issue with the definition, like that one? It's that it makes you think of power only if you want to reach the top, only if you want self-defense against the asshole, only if you want to, I don't know, have these big goals in life. While to me, it's every day, man. Like the other day I was out and my neighbor started talking to me, and it's a bit of a culture here. They were always complaining and talking a lot. I don't want to hear too many complaints, right? That's also about power dynamics. If I sit there and just be nice and nod, I'm going to waste a lot of time. Yeah. And she's going to think that the next time she can do the same thing over and over. That's just one example. Or, I don't know, in dating, that is so crucial. And especially for a man to get some attraction from the woman, usually you want to be a little bit higher power. Or when you go to work, if you want to be promoted, if you are the nice guy, hardly you're gonna make partner. You need to have a little bit of status. You need to know how to talk with the executives as if you were at the same level. That's also power dynamics, right? So the way I see it, it's also social skills. It's the same as social skills, but somehow for decades, any social skill resource missed it. And yeah, to me, that was stunning in a way, which, by the way, it's also how the power move started. and which is also what I think is so unique about the Social Strategist that we wrote. What do you think?
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that it's, of course, more than the uniqueness of it, the sheer value and the fact that we're feeling a need that simply isn't covered by a lot of social skills books. I mean, you've read thousands and you've taken courses on top of that. And so you would have an
Right.
even greater understanding of the fact that the self-help industry simply isn't talking enough about this, which is a part of what makes our responsibility of explaining it a little difficult because not too many other people have done it already. So we're having
Right.
to do the grunt work of trying to find the words that resonate with people to where they understand it and to where they take action on it so they can make their life better.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't reflect on that. You're right. When you're breaking new ground, you also need to come up with new ways to explaining it and
Yeah.
doing it for different audiences, right? And I
Yeah.
think, by the way, that's also a great addition that you brought to the table, man, because if I was going to do it, it would have been filled with jargon and complicated words, and I would have thought the book was amazing,
Yeah.
but nobody else would have.
Yeah. And the book would have been amazing. It simply would have been hard for people to see that.
Thanks for saying that, man. That was really classy of you. That's good social skills, right? And you just gave value to me. That's also power then.
Yeah. Speaking of a little learning opportunity, you guys, if you're watching, might notice early on in the interaction, I said that Lucio had really sort of mastered the art of the Clooney. And that's what's called a well done judge role. Because I take a judgment, I judge Lucio. Basically, you are good at Clooney like charming skills. However, it's a little bit more in the green because it was encapsulated within a thank you. And so it becomes a thank you judge role. I'm expressing my gratitude. At the same time, if you guys have been following a little bit of our discussions, the social strategist is 90% Lucio's wisdom, if not more, and simply 90% my writing. And so Lucio is really the top dog here. He's the social scientist, and he's been my mentor for a few years now. So it's best to avoid doing too many judge roles on your mentor if you want to keep them as an ally in your corner. What do you think, Lucio?
Man, you said it. And it's like it made me think of John again. Listening to your analysis, I really think, wow, this guy comes so far, so good.
Thank you. Couldn't have done it without
Perfect.
you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Next question then. So number 3, who should read this book?
And I think to me, it's easier to say who should not read it because I think the people who can gain with this wisdom and strategies and techniques that we teach, I struggle to think there is somebody who cannot gain from this. What do you think?
I think you're 100% right because we live in a sophisticated society today. And in a society, you simply need social skills. As you talk about often, coercion is not what gets people to the top anymore. You can win a couple battles because of our reptilian brain. But at the end of the day, simply physically threatening and forcing somebody to do what you want, you'll get ostracized in society for that. So you need social skills. And power dynamics is simply the advanced levels of social skills. So everyone can benefit from it unless you happen to be living in isolation somehow and you're a hermit, or unless you simply you're okay with ostracization, I suppose.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, I completely agree with you on the hermit side. Yes. I think also if you're a despot, even if your way of ruling is completely based out of physical strength, you still need power dynamics because you can be strong as you want. But 2 average people are stronger than a strong single one. And 3 below average people are stronger than a single strong individual. Right? So
Right.
you can't escape it. You still need to strategize.
I agree. I agree. All right. Number 4. And the 5th question is the last question, and then you can ask your questions and we might go off the cuff if that's okay with you. Number
Perfect.
4 is, if we were to release an updated and expanded version of this book and could add anything to it, what would we add?
That's a great question, man. And I think you came up with the topics in the beginning. And, if it was for me, like we go back to you adding that type of value that helps to make the social strategist palatable to almost everyone, because I would have written a tome like this probably and put too much on it. So I think, again, the best place to answer this question is you, man. And you have a great eye for marketing, for how to talk to people in general, and for how to write a book that sells. You have it more than I do, I think. Earlier, you called me social scientist, and maybe you're correct, but scientists aren't the best people to popularize the science sometimes.
I hear you. Thank you for saying that.
What do you think? What would you add?
What would I add? So let me preface that with this. The difficult part so imagine that, if you're listening to this, you're in my shoes and you get an absolutely large textbook full of just absolute wisdom with every page. None of it was fluff. And so now you're in the difficult position of now trying to say, what wisdom should people not get yet? And it's hard because you want everybody to get everything. And so I couldn't prioritize it based on value. I'd have to prioritize it based on timing of what I want people to walk away with first and as soon as possible.
Right.
And I think that what people might resonate with, especially when you're marketing your first book for Power Dynamics, would be impressions. How do you make the perfect first impression? There is a lesson in Power University on that, in terms of how to avoid having people perceive you as low power for making small, subtle mistakes within your impression. And I think that to make that its own chapter would possibly be something that a lot of people would read that and think to themselves, this is groundbreaking stuff right here.
When you chose covered power moves, I thought it was a very good idea. Covered power moves, somehow they grab people's attention a lot. And you can tell me, what do you think and why you think that's the case? I think that's because many of them are like everyday exchanges. And then when you explain the power dynamics behind it, it hits people a lot because they realize, oh shit, this is happening to me every day. It happened to me the last time and I had this reaction, or I lost this opportunity. And when they realize where the dynamics behind it and what they could have done, then they realize that there is something that they are missing and there is an opportunity that if they only learn it, then they can go to the next level. And that doesn't come across as well with other concepts as it does with covered power moves. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a part of it. I almost feel like my thoughts on it are that it was popularized by dating literature today. And so a lot of people who take an interest in dating and looking for their dream partner, and then the task of attracting that dream partner, they have to know that the power moves play an important part in whether or not you succeed in that endeavor. And so they oftentimes talk about game, they talk about social skills, they talk about this, that, and the third thing. But then the power moves come in and they're unsure of what to do. Or the power moves come in and you have some red pill gurus explaining it in misinformation. The last question that I have here, are you ready for it? All right. Is there anything that you would like our readers to know?
I think I wanted to have a surprise for them. And that we ran a contest for a free membership of Power University and a free coaching call. So I wanted to add one more Power University membership and one more coaching call for those who leave a review, let's say in the next week, and leave a comment in the YouTube section.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, and I wasn't sure you'd even go for that because, one, you're such a freedom-loving guy, and understandably, you fought hard for it. I remember your story, and your time is very limited because you're already working on so many other things as well. So, very generous of you to do that. I'm sure they'll appreciate it.
Right. Yeah, the Power University membership, it's easy to add. It's the coaching call that takes a little bit more, but now I said it. So sometimes to push yourself, and you just have to commit to something, and then you're kind of forced to do it, right? But I'm also happy to give this opportunity to the audience because I can understand that the membership price, especially now, it's not affordable for everyone, especially people living in different areas of the world with different incomes.
Yeah. And I'd also like to add, if you guys have any feedback on other prizes you think you guys would love for the next book, then please leave that in the comments as well.
Absolutely, yes. Ali, the same question back to you. You've done most of this project. And man, you're awesome. You managed to have 2 bestsellers as your first book. That's quite amazing. What's your secret? If somebody had to ask you, how do you do it, Ali, what would you say?
Oh my goodness. The funny thing is that so my first book was on networking, and I'm in meetings all the time because I still practice what I preach. And so I
Right.
get people who ask me this question quite often who want to publish their
I
own
see.
books.
Right.
And the secret is truly have a fantastic launch. The secret is truly in the launch. And it's important to have a solid launch team. And so for those of you who don't know the story, for the first book, I was very excited about it. We had the launch set up, and we only had about 46 people because it was my first book. I had no name, and
Right.
that was the full extent of my email list. There was only 46 people. And
Right.
when it came time to launch the book, only 2 people left a review. And it was, scary for me. Looking back, it's hilarious, but it was scary for me. And I had this scary moment of the book almost failing, my first book. Thankfully, my mentor who taught me how to write and publish a book, she has some connections and friends who are best-selling authors. And it was
Right.
almost like a God's plan moment where I ended up getting, 15 reviews, few of them from best-selling authors, and the book ended up doing well. And so it's
Right.
now that we launched this book, we went from launching with only 46 people to now on this second book launching with over 11,000 people.
Right. Right. But hey, man, cool story that you still managed to pull through. Congratulations. That's like a Hollywood type of story. On the last minute, you managed and you smashed it. Well done.
Cheers, man. I think you were one who left a review as well. So thank you as well.
Right. Yeah. Well, it was well deserved, I think. What you also did, we talked about power dynamics and how many people missed it in the social skills. Well, like the social skills are everything that has to do with people. When I talk about social skills, it's anything people related. So that also applies to networking, right? There wasn't much that dealt with the power dynamics of networking. What's your secret in life, actually? Because when I started, and usually people, when introduce others, they tend to exaggerate. But I didn't exaggerate anything. You're so young, you've grown so much, and you have achieved so much. Is there something special about you except for being born lucky and being a smart and driven guy? Is there something that you did or something that you will feel like suggesting others who want to be on the same self-development path?
I do my best to be mindful of the time we have here because these questions are so deep. I want to take my time to answer them as best I can. And at the same time, I want to be mindful of our time. There's never a secret when it comes to success, if you're asking me, for my opinion. It's always going to be the truth of reality, which is it takes hard work, and it takes that hard work consistently over an extended period of time. If you want to know my quote unquote secret sauce that I sprinkle on top of that necessary meal, I like to think that it's your mind. I had a traumatic experience when I was 16 years old where I was isolated and I was left to die and I had nobody. And I was suicidal because of that. And then that was my hell. And I climbed out of that because I had to stop looking at my pain as being something bad. Otherwise, I would have gone mad. I would have gone crazy because there was no reason. That was the thing. Now, yes, we're talking about 16. My social skills weren't very good at 18. So I know my social skills couldn't have been very good at 16. At the same time, you're also talking about someone who was one of the top players on a soccer team, top scorers. You're talking about someone who laughed on the school bus with his friends, who laughed in class with. So I had friends and I had family, and yet here I am in a hospital bed, not sure if I'm going to live tomorrow. And no, I'm by myself. And so not having a reason behind my pain was what was really driving me crazy. And so the first thing I did was I gave my pain purpose, which is a part of why I'm on this journey with you, Lucio, is because I I put it upon myself, the responsibility of doing my best to make sure no one else has to go through what I went through. And if you're listening to this, that can be a mental trap because you want to be careful not to go too extreme in that endeavor and then find yourself being emotionally dependent on always succeeding at helping people. At the same time, for me, I think I found a healthy balance in it, and it's helped me never slow down when it comes to working hard. And it's helped me take feedback as best I can because I know it's going to help me in the future when it comes to advancing my mission and helping people. And I can only express my gratitude again for the feedback Lucio's given me. I mean, truly, the kind of person that I was back then, if I'm being honest, impatient. Impatient. I don't know if I would have had the patience that Lucio had with me because if I'm in Lucio's shoes, the business of the power moves is putting food on my plate. So I really can't afford to be, messing around with someone who's a kid, doesn't know any better. And my business is catered towards people who are a little more on the advanced side. I came in the power moves as a complete beginner. I don't even know if I had any business being around that forum, really. And when you go into certain rooms, sometimes it's like that. And if you're in a room of millionaires and you don't know how to not present yourself, how to present yourself as not being a leech, people see you as not having any business being in that room. And so to an extent, when I first started out, I was pulling power moves on accident as a mistake. I wasn't, I had a disagreement with one of the forum members that I'm glad I apologized for because I was totally in the wrong. And now finally, if I had not taken my pain and saw it as something that could be good for me in terms of getting purpose from it and moving on, I wouldn't be here today.
Right. Man, that was a beautiful answer. Thank you so much for sharing part of your story. And I think you touched on a few very deep things, like helping people but not going to an extreme, turning your pain into something useful. And still, I think there is something about you that made you learn quicker than most. Could it be the hunger that you had, the intensity with which you went after learning? Do you think you had a higher than average hunger and that you were more intense in your learning?
I think it was that I had more time. Honestly.
Really?
A lot of the people that you attract are high-level people who are busy individuals. And
okay.
When I first started young, I decided not to go to college. And so I had so much time to really absorb all of your wisdom. And I chose to use that time to create index cards and to put in as much work as I could.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay. So in a way, you had your own self-university, your own self-directed courses.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I wonder if that might be a path also for somebody who's listening. Maybe you're thinking between university or self-directed learning. I've noticed that it's a popular advice among many millionaires. They say, don't go to university, but do your own learning. So I think then you might be an example that indeed that might be better.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're looking to be a surgeon or something to that effect.
You don't want to have a surgeon who learned by himself, maybe.
Yeah. I hope not.
I was cutting up meat at home. You can be safe with me. Right. Good answer. But I think we could probably do this again because it was awesome. And I think we just opened a few Pandora boxes here where we can go even a bit deeper.
Yeah. Plus, I had a lot of fun.
Same here, man. Same here.
All right. Well, it was great speaking with you, Lucio. And again, if any of you have anything that you want to say to us, please leave a comment below and we'll read them all.
Thanks to you, Ali. And yes, again, leave a comment below and leave a review on Amazon.com or any local Amazon that you can leave a review on, and you may win a free membership at our university or a free coaching call.
All right. Awesome. Take care.
Ciao, ciao, Ali.